Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of philosophy's most brilliant, most influential, and, let's be honest, most baffling books ever written. Ludwig Wittgenstein's Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. This is a super short book that, get this, claims to solve all the problems of philosophy. So, let's see if he pulls it off.
All right, let's jump in. We're going to follow Wittgenstein's arguments step by step. We'll start with how he sees the world, then get into his wild theory of language, and land on his really startling conclusion about, of all things, silence and nonsense.
You know, the book kicks off with these bold, almost poetic statements that just set the stage for everything. Right away, he tries to completely redefine what we even mean by the world.
So this first idea immediately flips our perspective upside down. See, most of us, we think of the world as being made up of, well, things, right? Tables, chairs, planets, people. But Wittgenstein just says, nope, the world is the sum total of facts. A chair isn't really part of the world, but the fact that the chair is in the room, now that is.
And this, right here, sets up the central mystery of the whole book. We start with these huge confident statements about the logical structure of all reality, but we end in a place where he tells us we have to be silent. How on earth does he get from A to B? What is that journey?
Well, to solve that mystery, we first have to understand the problem Wittgenstein thought he was solving. This wasn't just some academic exercise for him. He genuinely believed that the entire field of philosophy was built on a fundamental mistake.
And here it is, his radical diagnosis. He argues that, for centuries, philosophers haven't been asking tough questions. They've been asking nonsensical ones. The problem wasn't that we couldn't find the answers. The problem was that the questions themselves were literally meaningless, just a misuse of words.
So his incredibly ambitious goal was to draw a sharp line in the sand. He wanted to set a limit for what we can think by first setting a limit on what we can say, to separate what can be said clearly from what is just, well, meaningless noise. And if he could pull that off, he thought, the great problems of philosophy would just dissolve.
So how's he going to do it? To draw this line? He develops this really powerful and honestly beautiful theory about how language connects to reality. We call it the picture theory of meaning.
Okay, first, he breaks the world down into its most basic parts. He says that all the complex facts we see are built from these simple, independent, atomic facts, and these are just simple combinations of basic objects or entities.
And here's how the idea builds. The core concept is that a sentence, a proposition, works by creating a logical picture of a situation out there in the world. And for that picture to actually work, the way the names are arranged in the sentence has to have the exact same logical structure as the way the objects are arranged in the fact.
And this quote just illustrates the point so brilliantly. I mean, think about it. A musical score on paper, the sound waves vibrating in the air, and the grooves cut into a vinyl record are all physically completely different things, but they can all represent the exact same symphony because they share an underlying logical form. That, for Wittgenstein, is how language pictures the world.
Now, this picture theory isn't just a theory, it's a tool. It gives Wittgenstein a really precise way to figure out what we can, and more importantly, what we cannot say in a meaningful way. And this leads us to maybe the most critical question in the entire book. If our sentences are nothing more than pictures of facts, are there some things that you just can't take a picture of? And if there are, what are they?
This slide really gets to the heart of it, the crucial distinction Wittgenstein makes. On one hand, we can say things about facts in the world, like the cat is on the mat. But on the other hand, we can only show the logical structure that makes saying that possible in the first place. Think of it like this. You can't take a photograph of the rules of photography. It's impossible. The rules themselves are just demonstrated every single time you successfully take a photo. In exactly the same way, you can't use language to describe the logical form of language, because any attempt to do that has to use that very form. You're stuck inside it.
Okay, and this is where Wittgenstein's whole argument takes this really surprising and I think profound turn. Because it turns out that everything he believes is truly important in human life falls into this category of things that can only be shown.
So the boundary of what we can say with any meaning, well, that's the boundary of our world of facts. But the really important stuff, what lies on that boundary, what is shown but can't be put into words, that's what actually gives our world meaning.
What he's saying here is that the deepest truths aren't facts in the world, like a scientific discovery. The deepest, most profound truth is the sheer miracle that the world exists at all. And that's a truth you can't state as a fact. It can only be felt or experienced. And this is what he calls the mystical.
So he puts all of life's biggest domains, we're talking ethics, beauty, God, the meaning of life, he puts them all into this inexpressible realm. They aren't facts that you can picture with language. So anytime you try to talk about them as if they were facts, you just end up spouting nonsense. And this leads us to the final, famous twist ending, where Wittgenstein basically turns his entire argument on its head in one of the most incredible conclusions in all of philosophy.
In this just absolutely stunning move, he admits that his own book, the Tractatus, is filled with sentences trying to say things about logic and language, the very things he just proved cannot be said. He has spent the whole book speaking about the unspeakable.
So the point of the book isn't to be a collection of true statements at all. It's a tool. It's a ladder. You could say it's a carefully constructed piece of nonsense that's designed to guide you up to a higher perspective. And once you've gotten there, once you're at that new vantage point, you can see the limits of language for yourself. And you don't need the ladder anymore. You kick it away.
And that brings us to the famous last line. This isn't a command to just stop thinking about the big questions. No, it's a profound realization. It's the destination you finally arrive at after you've climbed the ladder, a clear understanding of what language can do, and a kind of respectful silence for everything it can't.
Ultimately, by getting this deep understanding of the limits of what can be said, you don't lose meaning. You find it. You finally see the world correctly, and you learn to separate the facts of science from the silent, showable truths of life itself. So the ultimate question the Tractatus leaves us with is this. From that new height, after you've kicked the ladder away, what does the world look like to you?